Welcome to the Troy Kearns podcast, where we talk all things real estate, business, and entrepreneurship. Today, I'm with a very special person. She's got 84,000 subscribers on YouTube. She's licensed in California, Florida. She's a social media influencer. Welcome to the show, Loida Velasquez. Did I say that right, Loida?
Yes, that was good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. So I had found you, I think it was either on TikTok or Instagram, and I sent it to my guys like, this gal is super powerful. She seems like just a force of nature. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, so I have been a real estate agent since 2015. Before that, I worked in marketing and advertising for about 8 years. I did a lot of work with brands in the automotive industry. So one of the last companies that I was working at, I was doing ride and drives, auto shows, but I was pretty much living out of a suitcase from hotel to hotel. And it got to a point that I just didn't want to live that life anymore. Even though I loved it, I saw real estate as kind of like the next step for me. I knew that I wanted to get a more stable job. And at that time, when I was traveling, I thought, let me go back and work in the corporate world. So
Right.
I got an office job working in a cubicle, and I quickly realized that I absolutely hated that. So then that's kind of when I started to transition into real estate. I knew that it was not going to be easy or glamorous. So when I got started, I went after the expireds and for sale by owners, and that's kind of how I built my business. And also when I got my license, I remember being new, going on YouTube to see what it was like to be a real estate agent. I was not finding a lot of information or videos or even women talking about it. So I took that as an opportunity to start creating content. So that's kind of how I got started on there.
Let's jump back a little bit. So you said that you were working for a corporate job, and that's cool that you got into real estate, because that's how kind of things changed for me. I was like just sick and tired of doing what I was doing. And then you were attracted to real estate. What attracted you to real estate?
I knew that if I really put in the work, I could be very successful. And there was no cap for how much I could make in terms of income. I didn't need to have a million degrees or get a ton of certifications in order to be successful. So I knew that it was not going to be easy, but I kind of took that challenge to see if I could do it. And I was going to do it no matter what. That's why I kind of went that route. I know the expireds and the for sale by owners were the type of leads that a lot of agents absolutely hate. And I wanted to focus on listings. So I was like, I'm just going to get really good in communication and handling objections with these type of leads to the point that I'm going to be converting them.
I love that. I mean, so you love the phones.
Yeah. Yep.
So now that's kind of funny because we're very similar in that way. I just gave up my license in Las Vegas in Nevada, but I had sold about 3,000 homes prior to giving up that license, and in terms of going full-time real estate. But one of the things that I always noticed is that the people who make the money in real estate are on the phone. And that still reigns true today, but most people are scared to death of expired listings, for sale by owners. What do you do when you're on the phones to separate yourself from people hanging up on you that they're so scared of being hung up on?
What I have done so much ever since I got my license was role playing. I feel that that's what really took me and my skills on the phone to be able to have good conversations. Also learning communication, listening, pattern interrupts when I'm talking to people. So that way I'm not sounding like every single agent that's calling them. Those are just some little things that I have been working on all of these years to make sure that when I am on the phone, if I hear someone, if they're just kind of going off, but I can hear that there's a motivation for them to sell, I know exactly what to say. Or if they throw me objections, I know how to handle that to the point that I either set an appointment, or I know that, I'm not going to waste my time and I can't help them.
Right. And that's very frustrating too, because when you first get on the phone, you have usually the people who want to talk to you end up being the people who want to waste your time because they got nobody else to talk to.
Exactly. Yeah.
So now you started in California. What part of California did you start in?
In Orange County. So are you familiar with California?
I'm familiar with Orange County, and I'm familiar with some parts of California, not all of them.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So I worked a lot in the Los Angeles and Orange County areas.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I kind of cut my teeth doing REOs back in 2007 through 2012. And so a lot of the people who were out there in California, I met, and they were always very active. Obviously, you got a super active market over there. So what made you leave California and move to Florida where you're selling real estate now?
So, it's a combination of a lot of things. I think one of the biggest ones would be taxes coming over
Right.
here. Everything is kind of crazy in California. And it also got to a point that with the team that I'm in, we started to expand, grow our agents. So we opened up an office out here in Florida. So I saw that, also as a great way for me to come out here, train those agents, and continue growing our brand.
And what is your brand?
So I'm a part of Team BC with eXp Realty.
Okay.
We're right now with over, I think, 20 different states. We have over 30 agents, and we're always just growing. So now it's gotten to a point that I'm kind of stepping away from selling real estate, and it's more training the agents, and any leads or deals that I get, handing it off to them, and then kind of working alongside with them. So I'm not every day on the phone still or hitting the doors.
Right. Yeah, that's super. It's very challenging. And one of the things that's most admirable that you've gone and started a new business. I mean, when you start a new business in a new city, it's tough. Like, I mean, especially when you don't have a sphere of influence. I know that you go primarily off of expired, you said, and for sale by owners. So those aren't really your sphere of influence. But I mean, just getting comfortable with the market and whatnot. How did you get into that? And how did you get through all of that?
I think it was just taking time to learn the different areas, the cities, the prices. One of the great benefits for me specifically was that since I had been on social media for so long, once I shared with everyone that I had moved out here, a lot of agents started already sending me referrals, or people started reaching out that they were thinking about buying or selling. So it became easier as opposed to just like being an agent that doesn't have any presence. And now I got to start all over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Loida, I want to ask you, like, what got you into social media? And I know you said like you started watching YouTube videos and you didn't see any women in the space. And that's really why we wanted to have you on, because we want to really promote the fact that like the females are the ones to watch out for. Like they're the dynamos. Like my wife is like amazing. And like I always say, like, man, she gets stuff done. You guys are organizational masters, and not to categorize or anything like that, saying that there's not men that are able to do the exact same thing. I just feel like women do, and when they fully immerse themselves into a business, it's like you don't stand a shot.
Mhm. Yeah, what got me into social media, just like you mentioned, in the beginning, I wasn't finding a lot of content regarding what it was like to be a real estate agent, the day-to-day activities, and just women sharing their experience. So I took that as an opportunity for me to, start recording myself to show what my journey was looking like. So I remember, and I have posted these videos, my very first live for sale by owner phone call that I ever did in my life, that I was completely horrible. It's on my YouTube channel.
Right.
And I recorded it and I was like, man, this is horrible, but I'm going to post it because there's probably so many agents out there that are going to be able to relate, or they might be like, oh, well, if Loida is this bad, then, I have a chance, or, okay, cool, I'm not the only one that's this bad. And
Right.
then because I have been consistent all of these years, if you fast forward to one of my most recent for sale by owner calls, you can see almost like this huge transformation of where I was and where I am now. And it's just giving me so much more credibility for any agent that maybe is thinking about getting into the business, or maybe they're new and they're some people, when they first come across my profile, they think that, oh, maybe I was born like this. You're so good on the phone, you turn the camera on, everything goes really great. But no, in reality, I started from the bottom too. I was never a public speaker. I had no experience speaking in front of a camera, but it was just over time that I got better at that. And I knew that video and being, relevant on different platforms was what's going to really make me stand out in this business where there's hundreds of thousands of agents, that you have to do
Right.
something to differentiate yourself. Otherwise, you're just another cookie cutter realtor.
For sure. And so your main platform is that YouTube?
Yes, YouTube and then Instagram.
So, and it's hard, like to get, like, I just started YouTube. I guess I'd be on it for now, March of last year. And it's hard to grow, even to that first 1,000 followers. I'm sure you remember that journey. Now you're up to 84,000 followers. That's quite impressive. Can you talk about that journey and how you got there?
So when I first started posting videos, I was just kind of sharing what I was learning. One of my first ones was, how to pass your license exam. I was creating video content that was relevant to what I was going through. And I noticed that there wasn't a lot of information regarding those specific topics. So I think for me specifically, that kind of helped, take my channel off the ground because a lot of people were searching for that. So now my first videos that I ever posted, they have over 100,000 views. But I
Wow.
remember posting videos. I had like 10 videos, and I still vividly remember I was in my car and I saw, wow, I have 14 subscribers, like 14 people actually subscribed to my channel. So I told myself, I got to be consistent, post at least one video every single week. I didn't have a day or a time, but I just knew that I was going to do it. And I'm the person that I hold myself accountable to whatever I say I'm going to do, because if I don't do it, I feel like I messed up and I let myself down. So I would take my iPhone 6. So I didn't have a fancy camera or anything. The
Right.
iPhone 6 is what I used to record. And that's exactly what I used for the first 2 years of posting videos on YouTube. So going back to 1,000 subscribers that I know you brought up, I think it took me maybe a little bit over a year to get 1,000 subscribers. But then as I remained consistent with what I was posting, it just slowly started to take off. And now it's at the point that I get between 700 to 1,000 new subscribers every single month.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a great story. And that just tells you, and that's why we had you on here, Loida. It's just like one of those things, like people always, they look and the first thing they see is they see success, and they don't know that the journey started 7 years ago. Right.
Yeah.
And that you just grinded it out until you got there. And now, can we talk, how much business have you gained from having that social media presence?
I get a lot of business from other agents, since mostly all of the content that I put out is for real estate agents, a lot of referrals. So from all over the country. I also will get, just consumers reaching out because they saw one of my videos where I'm talking about buying or selling. So specifically last year, for example, I got a random email from a gentleman. He said, hey, Loida, I have this property out in LA. I'm thinking about selling it. I want to see if maybe you can help me because I'm in a distressed situation. So we ended up getting on a Zoom call. He gave me all the info. It turns out it's a 4-unit property for 1.6 million. Ended up getting that listing, no objections, didn't have to compete with anybody else. And we ended up selling that. And he was the happiest person on earth because he was working with me. So it's almost like, because I have been putting myself out there for so long, there's a credibility. Anytime anyone wants to work with me, they know, you're getting the real deal with Loida, because whatever I'm going to do with them, I probably have videos where I'm sharing with other agents how it is to work with a buyer or a seller.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. So now you're with EXP. EXP is relatively, I would say, a newer brand, not a new brand, but a newer brand in the real estate. For years and years, it was Century 21, and then it was Prudential, then at Berkshire Hathaway, and then like Keller Williams kind of came on stage and really held that whole culture thing. And then EXP just kind of shot out of nowhere. Tell me about why you decided to join EXP. And I know that, like, obviously if somebody's listening right now, and I know that EXP, the whole model is like, you want to work with other people so that you can have existing cash flow outside of that. So if anybody's listening, they want to join Loida's team, how do they get a hold of you?
You can just go to tbcsold.com. That would be a great way to get a hold of us. Now, one of the reasons that we joined EXP, we have been with so many different companies in the past. Those 100%, you keep all your commission, the boutique ones that no one has ever heard about, the Keller Williams, and then now with EXP. With EXP, I remember way before we made the transition, we had some friends already with that company that would reach out and tell us all about it. And we'd be like, no, we're good. We're okay. Like, stop bugging. Kind of like what a lot of people might think about EXP, that they're just annoying and just trying to recruit. But once we we figured out, and looked into the numbers and, all of the resources and what it would mean for us long term, it just made sense. So
Right.
the company that we were previously at, we were paying a whole bunch of fees and desk fees, and we were never even there.
Right.
So with me, along with cold calling, something that I did specifically in the beginning is that I did a lot of door knocking. So
Oh, I
I
love
was
that.
hitting the doors
I
for my
love
entire
that.
year. So
You are
I think also
you are
how they built
tough.
things in. Yeah. So
Yeah,
so that's what
that
I'm getting when I'm hitting the phones and people are going off on me. It's like, dude, I've already gone through so many tens of thousands of doors that whatever you say is not going to affect me because I probably already know what you're going to say. And I think that's also something that a lot of agents won't do: door knocking and cold calling. And that's something that I started with.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to like everybody who's listening right now. First of all, make sure you give Loida a 5-star review. She's sharing all of her secrets here. But like I talk to people about this all the time. I'm like, if you're not willing to door knock, and if you're not willing to cold call, then you're not willing to be in the business. Like it's not going to just jump on your lap. You got to go out there and get it. And so where did this drive of yours come from, Loida? I mean, you're driven. Where did it come from?
Yes. So I work with Brian Casella. He's my partner. He's the one that I started with way in the beginning. And he's also one of the reasons that I got into real estate. And I remember him with that hustle, and he became successful very quickly. So I remember seeing him and I was like, you know what? Like if Brian did it, I can totally do that. And I
I
can
love
totally do
Brian.
the female version.
I love like I love Brian. I like his content. I like his hustle, his grind, his yoga swagger, his like I'm in like I forgot. I do remember that you work with him, but I love BC. He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
So
So
I
you're
think
working with
being,
him.
yes. And if you've been watching him, like the way that he is, very driven, very motivated. And that's kind of how he trained me, very like military style, where, we're going to prospect in the morning and the afternoon is going to be follow up. We don't have any appointments in the morning. Everything's set in the afternoon. I was like, okay, if this is what it's going to take for me to succeed and be a top producer, then I just got to do that. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I remember watching a lot of Mike Ferry, also a lot in the beginning, and he was all
Right.
about listings. So that's what kind of gave me the drive. And also, I knew that becoming successful in this business would help not just me, but also my family. In my family specifically, no one's an entrepreneur. No one has ever done anything like this. So I would be the first one kind of stepping out of the comfort zone and setting the bar for everyone else in the future. And I remember my family was a little skeptical in the beginning when I got into real estate because I had been previously working at a stable job and I got a stable paycheck. Now I'm
Right.
getting to something that I don't know when my next paycheck is going to come. But fast forward a few years later, they're like, this is crazy. Like, how did you do this? But it's like all the hard work, my tans from when I would go door knocking, it paid off.
Yeah, for sure. And that's cool. So and now you left California, which I always ask people, one of my favorite questions when I have somebody on from California, is like, why are you still there? So you obviously figured that out faster than most. So you took the train to Florida or however you got there. I'm on my way to move to Naples. What part of Florida do you work in and prospect in and focus on?
South Florida. That's pretty much. With our team, we do have agents throughout, all of Florida, some in North Florida, South Florida, but me specifically, it's like Miami-Dade, Broward County.
Okay. Know it very well. I used to have an office in Miami Lakes back in the REO boom when we were spreading our web over there. So it was at the Bank of America building, if that's still there, in Miami Lakes. And I know A1A very well, Collins Avenue, Washington,
Yeah.
all of that cool stuff. So you're living in Hollywood, Florida right now. How much more do you like Florida than California?
I love it. I love it out here, even though it's hot and the weather's completely different than out there. I feel like there is so much more freedom out here during
Yeah.
this time than in California. Everyone's super nice. Where I currently live, if I wanted to purchase this house in California, it would have probably cost me an arm and a leg, maybe like 2 million or something, because I'm like 10 minutes away from the water. So the home prices, I mean, for me specifically, I love it. I mean, I think that no matter where it is that you go, there's always opportunities. You just have to make sure that you're putting in the work and you're hustling. Otherwise, I'm not here to listen to anyone complain.
Right, right. One question that I always like to ask people with a strong social media presence like yourself, Loida, is how do you deal with the hate?
With the hate, right?
The hate, yes.
It's funny. It's funny that you say that because even earlier, before we hopped on here, there was some trolls on YouTube just leaving me some random comments, and I'm like, dude, are you serious? Like, you have time to leave me comments like this? But I don't let it affect me. If anything, I just kind of laugh it off because I think it's funny that people might be going out of their way to say something to put me down or just be like a smart ass. Depending on what it is, like I'll delete it, but I never like to put my energy towards it or let it affect me because first of all, I don't know who you are. You're probably nobody, and you bring no value to my life. So why should I even be paying attention to what you have to say? That's the way
Right.
that I see things.
Yeah, I see them the exact same way. Every once in a while, they'll get under your skin, but blocking and reporting are kind of like your best friends in terms of
Yeah.
just nasty people. Um, what advice would you give to somebody who's new to real estate or a young woman like my daughter out there who's growing up who wants to be something someday? What advice would you give the young people out there?
I'll give the advice that, I think helped me. I would look up to people that I wanted to be like, more specifically women that were doing like things that I thought were like out of the ordinary, like badass women, kicking ass, putting in work, doing their thing, independent hustlers. Because at the end of the day, you have the same opportunity that anyone has. And what's funny is that a lot of people that watch my YouTube videos, sometimes I get random comments that say, oh, well, you only get deals because you're a woman or because you're pretty or this and that. And I'm like, dude, I built most of my business from cold calling. So people have no clue even what I look like. It's all about my skills and what I say and my objection handling. So
Right.
whatever you want to do, if you're new in real estate, just know that if you want to, stand out, you have to do above and beyond from just like what the regular average agent does. So for me specifically, it was role playing every single day so that I could know how to speak to different personalities, different people, old people, young people, that millionaire, multimillionaire, and then maybe that homeless person down the street. Being
Right.
able to have conversations with so many different people, that's what's going to help you, the communication and all that.
So where do you see yourself headed in the next few years? Where do you want to be and where do you think you'll be?
So in the next few years, I want to continue growing my brands on social media and all of that. Also training agents. So as of recently, I started doing more trainings for new agents and boot camps, more speaking, more partnerships with different brands. And just overall, I just want to be a voice for women in sales, just because you don't see a lot of that. And continue motivating and just sharing my knowledge with others so that they can have continuous real estate success.
Awesome. Loida, I got a couple questions for you just to kind of go down the rabbit hole a little bit. Like if we were going to talk, and I've made lots of phone calls and there's lots of tough objections to overcome. What do you think the toughest objection to overcome out there is?
The toughest, just in general?
Yeah, like, hey, now's not a good time, or I got to talk to my wife, or I have to talk to my husband, those types of things, or I don't want to sell my house anymore. What is kind of your go-to? I know like we're doing a little bit of role playing on the spot, if you will.
Oh, no, I love this. Okay. So what I would say, something that a lot of agents fail to do is continue asking questions. If you have someone on the phone and they tell you, you know what, oh no, I got to talk to my wife, then I would say, okay, perfect. When's the next time that you're going to be speaking to her? Okay, great. You got to talk to your wife. Awesome. When are you going to be together so that I can give you a call and we can do a three-way? So I'm already thinking ahead so that whatever objection you're going to throw to me, I already have a response for that, setting it up in a way that either we're going to get to a decision whether, you know, you're going to hire me or we're going to get together, or maybe you're not serious or you don't want to do anything. So it's just more, if you have someone on the phone, ask as many questions and kind of dissect what the situation is and what their motivation is.
Right. Excellent advice, Loida. Now, when you get in front of them and you're there and you got the contract in your hand and you're sliding it across the table, what are your closing techniques?
So I never say like sign the contract. I always say, you know, I'm ready for you to put me to work, so let's get the ball rolling. But by that time, I will have already gone through my listing presentation, which at this point is just sounds like a conversation, and they don't really know it's an actual like script that I have studied. But in order to get to that point of them signing and hiring me, I have done so much homework and I have pre-qualified them to make sure that if I am going on this appointment, they're ready to make the decision there, whether it's to hire me or not. And if for some reason we don't see eye to eye on something, and I try to handle that objection as many times, or we just can't get through to each other because maybe they're like, you know what, Loida, everything sounds great, but I'm not paying more than 2%. Then I say, okay, well, you know what? Then it sounds like I'm not the right agent for you. And then I'm willing to just walk away.
Right. So you value your time and you're willing to make sure that people understand that. That's so important these days, mm-hmm. especially with all of these discount brokers out there that are willing to just give stuff away. And I have always found, and I don't know how you feel, Loida, but that whenever I have taken a discount commission, which I have, it's the worst client on the other end of that commission.
I mean, yes, I've noticed that too. Like if you, like, even if it's like a 0.5% that you give a discount, it's always headaches or problems or penny pinching. And also what I have noticed from my experience, the lower the price point, the more the headaches too. I don't know how that is, but that's what I have experienced.
Right, because they're fighting over everything they got and they don't want to give anything up. I understand that. So you see yourself training a lot of people with the social media. I mean, 84,000 subscribers is hugely impressive, especially that you're so niched down with what you're talking about. It's not like you're one of those comedians that has a massive amount of just make fun of these guys, or you're somebody who's talking about broad things, but you're very specific about overcoming objections and handling these things and how to be successful as a woman in real estate, which is pretty powerful. How is that fed into your EXP business? And how do you consider, are you on TikTok, by the way?
I am on TikTok. However, on TikTok, I create Spanish content.
See? Se puede?
Yeah. I'm all over the place.
I love that. That's very powerful. You know, that's funny. There's a good friend of mine actually out of California. One of the guys I asked that same question to, why do you still live in California? His name is Jose Luis. God, I'm forgetting his last name right now. I shouldn't be forgetting it, but his name is Jose Luis Morales. That's what it is. And, you know, he does his TikTok in English and then he does it in Spanish. And the ones in Spanish go through the moon. And I've done a bunch of videos in Mexico because I'm always down in Mexico. And when we do them in Mexico and we have somebody speaking Spanish and our guys interpret that and put that on there in subtitles, the videos just crank like 2-3 million views.
Yeah, it's crazy. I recently started posting on TikTok just specifically for Spanish. So I have another English account, but I never was really intentional about posting there because I'm like, I'm already on YouTube, I'm on Instagram, it's just becoming too much. But the funny story that I haven't really told a lot of people as to why I started creating Spanish content on TikTok, you're probably gonna laugh at this. So a while back, like maybe 3-4 months ago, I got a random email from OnlyFans because they wanted to see if I would post my real estate podcast on their OnlyFans. Completely random. Yeah. So I guess they're trying to get the educational route. So I was like, okay, so this platform is going that route. Let me try to do something similar, but on TikTok and in Spanish, where all I'm going to do is education. It's not going to be me funny, dancing, pointing. It's just me giving tips. So I made it a goal to release 3 TikToks every single day for 2 weeks just to see what would happen. And exactly what you mentioned, like every single one through the roof, like people blowing up my phone, messages, comments, like I'm ready. Where can I get a hold of you? And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know. I need like a CRM. I need an assistant, like someone that's going to handle the calls because it became so much. But then I saw, okay, there's something powerful here specifically on TikTok for the Hispanic community that I saw.
I'm in the process of trying to hire someone to put all of my TikToks dubbed over in Espanol. So until I can pick it up 100%, like I'm not even close, but I definitely can, you know, get around it a little bit. But it's such a powerful language because, and people who underestimate that, I always really get mad at the people who are from Mexico or from a Latin American country and they don't teach their kids Spanish. I'm like, you're not teaching your kids the mother tongue. So obviously you speak perfect English and I'm assuming perfect Spanish as well.
Yes.
Where do you originate from? Where does your family come from?
From El Salvador.
El Salvador. Okay, wonderful. So how long have they been in the United States?
Like 37 years.
So a long time. So you grew up here.
I grew up here and Spanish was my first language.
So your parents spoke correctly to you in Espanol. So the first thing that you understood was Spanish. Do you have children?
No, I don't.
If you do end up having children, will you teach them Spanish?
Of course. Yes. Maybe even Mandarin too.
Oh, wow. You're working on your Chinese?
No.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what is the population like across the board? Do you know off the top? Because I know in Las Vegas, I'm originally from Las Vegas. Well, I'm originally from Seattle. I spent the last 15 years in Las Vegas, and now I'm in Kansas City, and we're headed to Florida, like I mentioned earlier. The number one like language in Vegas is Espanol. Like I would say they say that it's 30 to 40% of the workforce. I would argue it's 50 to 60% of the workforce, but it's just reported as 30 to 40%. How do you see the nation of the United States shifting? I see us becoming like a bilingual nation of Espanol, and I mean that's just the way everything's coming up.
Exactly. No, I think there might even be a statistic that Spanish might be like the first language over English. I mean, everywhere that I go, especially out here in Florida, everyone's speaking Spanish. They speak English, but they'd rather talk to me in Spanish.
For sure. That was one of the most frustrating things actually when I had an office in Florida was like turning on utilities and stuff when we were selling REO properties. Nobody spoke English.
Yeah.
Like I had to hire a gal down there named Yvette Cruz, who was from Cuba to work with us because I didn't speak the language. And it's so important to understand that. And it's something that as I'm talking to you, I'm like, man, I'm so bad about studying and learning that Spanish. And it's something that's so everybody that I know that have learned a language later in their life, it's because they fell in love with somebody and that's how they had to do it. You know?
Yeah.
So, that's really cool. I didn't know that about you. If you ever know anybody who's interested in like doing dubs for me on those Spanish content, I would love to pick your brain about that. So what is a piece of advice that you would give someone who's like brand or like they're kind of like working at the corporate job and they're like not satisfied, like it's a cool job just like the one that you had, but you know, maybe they're sitting in hotel rooms, maybe they're working for the man, and you know the freedom. I mean, we have freedom. Doesn't mean we don't have to work hard, but we have freedom now. What advice would you give to them?
I would say you really have to think whether or not you're going to fully commit to this business. Because if you think that this is just like a hobby, I'm going to do it on the side, like here and there, you're probably going to hate it. Because real estate is not as easy as it looks. Like there's so many TV shows, it's glamorous what you see. And the reality is that it's not, especially if someone is new, they don't have, a sphere of influence or a database of people. You're probably going to be like, what, cold calling? Like, I do not want to do that. Or door knocking. It's 100 degrees outside. Why would I want to do that? So if you are not like 100% committed into this business, or there's not something that's really motivating you as to why you want to do this, that's the first thing that you have to do. Realize whether or not you're going to commit to this. What I like to tell any new agents that are thinking about joining our team is that If they start telling me, oh, well, my plan B will be this, or if real estate doesn't work out, I'll do here, blah, blah, blah. Then what that tells me is that you're already thinking that you're probably going to fail. So
Right.
I'm not sure if you might be a good fit, because the way that I am and Brian, the way that he is, we have very high standards for anybody that decides to work with us, just because we have both put in the work, out hitting the doors, getting yelled at over the phone. So we expect any new agent to, have to go through that. So we're not going to teach you something that we haven't done before. So figure that out. Once you decide to make that transition, if someone's married or if they're going to do this part-time, talk with your family, because if you're fully transitioning, your funds are probably going to go low if you are completely leaving your previous job. So those are just a few things that I would say to talk about and figure out first. And once you do make that jump, have a very strict schedule and know exactly what you're supposed to be doing every single hour, every single day.
Guys, that is hugely important advice. I think that deserves a 5-star review right now. And make sure you subscribe to Loida, follow her on her YouTube channel, and make sure you subscribe, obviously, to this podcast and share this video with a friend. I definitely think that's really like genuine advice. Like she's telling you, like, if you're not 100% committed, you're not going to succeed. And if you already have an exit strategy before you even get into the game, then you're going to exit quickly. What do your parents think about your success?
They're just so happy and excited to see, how far I've come. Unfortunately, my dad passed away back in 2019. And if it wasn't for me being in this business, I wouldn't have been able to spend every single day, his last days with him. I feel that I had already had that flexibility where I had put in the work that I was able to be with him every day, provide for him, take him to the doctors. So if I had been working a regular job, they probably would have fired me because I was not going into work. So
Right.
for me, this business has really changed my life. It has changed their life. Overall, even the people in Central America, it has changed their life. Something that I do is that I love to give back. I'm Christian. So in El Salvador, I have helped build churches just from me giving back. So overall, it's just been a great experience that my whole entire family has been really happy to see, how far I've come, and not just with real estate, but also agents reaching out and telling me, that they've been implementing what they learned on my channel and a whole bunch of other stuff.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that so much, Loida. A couple more questions. So being from El Salvador, you just mentioned that you go down there and you like to give back. When you come and you think about what your parents did to come here, how does that make you feel?
It makes me want to work even harder, just so that, it's kind of like the only thing that I can do. When I got into real estate back in 2015, both of my parents were working. My mom, I could tell that she hated what she was doing. She worked at a factory as a sample maker, making clothes. And she would come home from work just kind of being, like over it. And I remember telling her, I was like, you know what, once I started to do really good in real estate, like, you're going to retire. And yeah, within that year, I was able to help her retire. So she no longer had to work. So that's one of my biggest accomplishments and goals that I set for myself in the beginning, so that she no longer had to work. And then my dad no longer had to work. And for them, their life has changed as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're changing lives down in El Salvador too. So you're building churches. How did you get inspired? I mean, obviously you're a woman of faith, so I'm sure that kind of led you down that road, but like, that's a pretty big undertaking to go and say, yeah, I'm going to build a couple of churches.
Yeah, my entire family, they have always, been pastors. They have sang. Like, I come from a very long line of people. We have always been people of faith. So we have family members that are pastors. And I remember specifically one time my uncle was telling me that there was this new church in our town over there, and they just didn't have an actual place. They were in like almost like a little shack. It didn't have a roof or anything. So that next summer I ended up going out, and I just started slowly planting and giving so that they could start building. So when I first got told about this specific church, they were getting together just in a piece of dirt. But for them, this piece of dirt was enough for them to gather. And I felt it in my heart. It's like, you shouldn't be in this dirt. Let me at least help you build something with walls and windows and a bathroom. And yeah, it took maybe like a year and a half. All of the members of that church were the ones that built the church. So it's not like they hired another company. It was the members building everything. And to see the end result, and they send me pictures all the time, it's just such a great feeling that I was able to, at least for this one, be able to contribute so that they now have a great place to worship.
That's awesome. And I think that's super motivating, even for myself, to hear that. Like, I always get like touched when I hear people like giving back. I'm like, man, I need to give way more back than I'm doing, just because it's like, yeah, you can't take it with you. And on top of all of that, it's like you can really change a lot of lives. And there's all these people, especially like whenever I post like something financially motivated on Instagram or on YouTube or wherever, and people are like, eat the rich, eat the rich. And I'm like, you know what? Eat the government. Like forget their forget their, like, it's not the system. It's what you could do stuff with your money. And you're obviously proving that you can help people out. If you have money, you can't do nothing if you have nothing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the way that I see it.
Awesome. So another question for you. So BC, being the fact that he's one of the guys that I like, I'm into yoga and that whole like body shift, I guess it is. And so he's one of those guys that I follow, and he's trying to do handstands and grind it out. He seems like he's got a very, like, I don't want to say strange, but I would say unique personality.
Yeah, that's just how he is, and he loves it. We're kind of like the opposites.
Yeah, like, because he's very like, tattoos, like doing like monkey bars in the park and whatnot, and you look like put together, like, like no tattoos or anything like that. And so you guys are a team. You guys work together as a team.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So one final question. If you were to talk to yourself in 2015, and knowing that where you're at right now, what mistakes do you think that you made, and that you would like, I mean, I know that's just part of the journey, but what could our listeners learn from hearing you talk to yourself back in 2015 that you would have done differently?
I would have been more positive in the way that I would talk to myself in the beginning, after all of the work that I was putting in. I remember there were times, maybe 5-6 months in the business, that I would kind of question whether I was good enough to be a real estate agent, or why am I not seeing results? And I was focusing on like the things that I was not seeing. So like the negative things, instead of focusing on how far I had come in terms of knowing my scripts, knowing how to figure out if someone was a lead or someone was wasting my time, or what a contact was. So once I made that shift, that's what really started to change things for me. So if I could go back, I would say, always be reading, be surrounding yourself with people that are positive, and just talk to myself in a very positive way, never putting me down.
Yeah, mindset is so important. We can always have that soundtrack in our own mind that is either talking to us negatively or positively. Our mind knows us. One of the guys I also look up to in social media is a guy named David Goggins. And it's like, you can do it just like your parents said, you can do anything you put your mind to, whether you believe you can or you believe you can't. That's exactly how it's going to turn out. Lloyd, I really enjoyed having you on the show today. Appreciate you. And I'd love to, share all your content with everybody. Again, how do they get a hold of you? How do they follow? If they want to join your team, they could join it throughout the nation, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay, so how do they get a hold of you again on that?
You can go to teambcsold.com.
teambcsold.com. And your socials again are?
You can look me up on YouTube, Loida Velasquez, or you could just put Loida cold calling and I'm going to pop up. Or on Instagram, Loida Velas, or my website is loidavelasquez.com.
Awesome. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you sharing your story. It's been nice to meet you. When I come down to Florida, we'll definitely have to get together. I'll hang out with you in BC. We can do some monkey bars. We can do whatever and have a good old time. I'm glad that you're having a super amount of success, and I appreciate you sharing your story with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Peace.